Welcome to One Tired Teacher, episode 203, Implementing New Habits in the Classroom for the New Year, a look back. So today we're looking back at episode number 59, and we're going to take a look at some of these habits that we discussed all these years ago that are still so relevant and important for us today. And you know what? It is 2023. Can you believe it? Happy New Year. I can't even believe it. This is the second day of the year, and I think I'm going to predict that we have a wonderful 2023. And I hope that I don't have to replay this episode years from now and be wrong. So we are going to have a great year. I'm so excited about One Tired Teacher and the direction we are taking. I can't wait until next week where we'll have all new episodes. So be sure to tune back in next week for our brand new episode for 2023. Until then, let's take a look back at episode 59, Implementing New Habits in the Classroom for the New Year. Welcome to One Tired Teacher, episode 59, Implementing New Habits in the Classroom for the New Year. Happy New Year. It is 2020. I can hardly believe it. And welcome back. It's been 2 weeks since I've been here. Did you miss me? I totally missed you, and I am excited to be back and ready for a new year. Today, I'm going to talk to you about a book that I've been reading called Atomic Habits by James Clear. And I know that it's going to resonate with you as teachers are like, we can be really good with systems, but sometimes we're not, and that's when the trouble comes in. And so if we're creating habits in our classroom and even for our own personal selves, that's when we start to see some major changes. So I hope you stick around.
Welcome to One Tired Teacher. And even though she may need a nap, this teacher is ready to wake up and speak her truth about the trials and treasures of teaching. Here she is, wide awake. Wait, she's not asleep right now, is she? She is awake, right? Okay. From Trina Debery Teaching and Learning, your host, Trina Debery.
Hey, so it's the new year. It's 2020, and I'm so excited to be back, as I said in the intro, and I'm ready for all things that are coming this year. We're going to be talking about so many different things this year, and I'm super excited about it because I know that sometimes teaching can be super hard and it can be stressful. We get overwhelmed. And thank goodness we have those times where we get to actually take a step away for a little while. I hope you took some very much needed rest and you allowed yourself to rejuvenate and recharge over this holiday break, because we all need that. We need it in order to do the job that we do. Teaching can really take a lot out of you. You give and you give and you give, and it's a constant battle of figuring out balance between how much you need to do and how much you need to do for yourself and for your own personal life. And it often leaves us very tired. And I think that can be really hard. And I think there's got to be some ways that we figure out how to make teaching easier, just a bit easier. I mean, we're never going to make it the easiest job on earth. Let's be real. But we can at least do some things that help us go in the right direction so that we can start to feel more efficient and we can start to feel like we are doing the job that we were excited to start from the very beginning. And if you are starting from the very beginning, I want you to love this career and not walk away feeling super exhausted and totally overwhelmed. I want you to remember your why, hold on to that, and let's get through some of these things so that we can maybe have the tired we feel when we've done a really good job, a job well done. The feeling of that's not extreme exhaustion. That's just being tired and needing to rejuvenate with some sleep. And then we're ready to face it again. So I want to talk about some of those kind of things this year. And I want to talk about, integration of technology. And I want to talk about podcasting in the classroom. Oh, there's so much potential. I can't wait to talk about that. And we're going to be even talking about our finances, like our finances finances as teachers. That's something we don't talk a lot about. The thing that we hear is how difficult it is to manage on a teacher's salary. And I have a very special guest coming next week who is going to give us some really good financial advice for teachers. And I was taking notes like crazy. So I think that, and I've been teaching for a long time. I think you're really going to see a benefit in that. So I hope that you will join me next week for the podcast. Okay. So one more thing I want to tell you before we jump into implementing new habits in our classroom for the new year. One thing I want to tell you is that I just recently opened up a private Facebook group for One Tired Teacher. And I would love for you to join so that we can continue this conversation. So that when we talk about topics and you're wanting to say something back, that you can say something back and it'll be so much easier. And it's for all teachers. And I know the main things that I talk about on One Tired Teacher really are focused more towards elementary school teachers, because that's my specialty. That's my niche. And I am always welcome to hearing from middle school teachers and high school teachers and even college teachers and educators and homeschool parents that are wanting to educate their kids, and people that have a desire for that self-driven model, and even conversations about unschooling. I think all of that is really fascinating, and we can learn so much from each other, and we can make some systems better than they are. And it's really going to start with us. It totally starts with us. And so I think when we have a community like that, we can really learn and grow together. So everybody is welcome. All teachers are welcome. I just wanted to say that about the elementary thing, so that you know that there'll be probably more conversations, geared around that, because that's the area that I, live in the most. But there's a lot of topics that are relevant to all teachers. And so I would love to have you join me on One Tired Teacher on Facebook. And you can actually go to Facebook groups, One Tired Teacher, and that's how you can find it, and ask to join. And I'd love to have you so that we can continue to talk. And I'll put a link to it in the show notes so that you can find it easier. And I hope you come and join me, because I'm ready to have some conversations with all of you. All right, let's talk about habits that we need to implement for the new year, because, it's the new year and most of us are setting goals and we're making New Year's resolutions, and we might have already broken them by the time this comes out on I don't even know what day it comes out, on the 9th. Is it the 9th? Yes, it is. It's the 9th. So by that time, have you broken your resolution? Hopefully you haven't. But New Year's resolutions are really difficult, because we are really gung-ho about making this big change, and we're committed, and we're going to work out every single day, and we're going to eat really good, and we're never going to have sugar, we're never going to have gluten, and we make all these giant declarations, and then it's completely unrealistic. And then we can't hold on to it. And we really need some bread, or we really need, some sugar. So it's very hard to make those kind of things and then not have them last, which is why I thought of this topic for this week, because I've been reading this book called Atomic Habits by James Clear. And he talks about not actually creating resolutions and goals like that, but actually changing our habits just a little bit at a time. And I thought, well, this is relevant to teachers. Teachers totally could, take this advice and use it in their own personal lives, but we can also use it in the classroom, changing and I never even thought of it like that. Changing something small and then watching, letting time percolate, letting it go on for a little while and then seeing this massive change. Sometimes we don't think small changes are going to matter, but they totally do. So one of the things that James says right off the bat is, you do not rise to the level of your goals. You fail to the level of your systems. And I was like, oh, that's so true. And I think about that in my own classroom. And I think, when I don't have a system in place, if I don't have something clearly outlined, for example, the end of the day, pack up, and that time period where we had the bells would we didn't have bells. They were dismissed from the TV. They had, like little icons that would go away. And then you'd know that bus was called or the walkers were called or whatever. And I felt like I didn't have a very good system in that time frame. And so it felt like chaos. And that was really stressful for me. So I did, my goal was to dismiss with efficiency and like a system in place, but I didn't have a very strong system. So that's why it was a failure. So I totally think that what James says about that is so true. And I think that this can be true in your own life. I think it can be true if you're trying, starting a business and if you're in the classroom. So think about it. Like, really think about how this relates to you. I know another one is like, behavior systems. How kids turn in their papers, what they do when they are finished with work. Like, think about those things. Do you have systems, or are they like a failure because you don't have a system, because your kids don't have specific habits that lead to those kind of successes? So just something to think about when it comes to that. So you can use this, like I said, you can use this approach in life and in business. And James tells us that we only have to change our habits. This is crazy, by 1% to get results. Doesn't that make you feel like I can totally do that? Instead of, I'm not going to eat gluten at all. Like, I'm going to change it by 1%. I'm going to reduce the amount of gluten that I eat, and I'm going to not have, toast in the morning. So that'll be my first step. So it's just changing that one habit just by 1%. And I think that this is huge for teachers because we always feel like we don't have enough time to implement anything. It's like what they keep asking us to do all these things and we can't manage another thing. It always feels like so much, but we can do something at 1%. That's crazy. That's like barely anything. And it's kind of like, I also think of it like running on the treadmill for me. I can totally run all out for 30 seconds. If I know that it's only for 30 seconds, I'm like, I can do it. I can make it. It's like a mental game. Like I can go. But if I have to go for a longer period of time, even for 5 minutes, like I know I'm going to have to go at a slower pace. I'm not going to be able to run at my full on speed for 5 minutes. I mean, hopefully in a couple months, I'll be telling you something different. But right now, that's just the case. But if I only have to do it for 30 seconds, I'm doing it. I'm running. So that's the first thing you need to know, is that it only has to be changed by 1%. So instead of thinking of your goals thinking of goals, like I've got to have all my kids turn in their homework. I have to get all of my kids to be reading on grade level, or, you're thinking of these big things. You want to think about some of the habits instead, so that you can start to incorporate some habits that will get kids reading on grade level, so that we can, or taking some habits away, like they're spending so much time on devices, or they're spending so much time writing about their reading, or they're spending so much time, doing some other things that they're not actually they're not in the habit of actually reading. So that's just one example. So, sometimes we want to take some habits away as well as adding them. And that can get us some really big results. And maybe adding the habit, like I love this one, like adding the habit of greeting your kids at the door to increase your relationships. I mean, that's pretty simple. Coming to the door, be ready to say hello. You don't have to go all out and do the 25 different handshakes or the 25 different greetings, although I think that's really cool. You can just be there to say hello to kids every single morning. That's one small habit. That doesn't take a lot. That can actually begin to have a compound effect of making, building relationships with your kids. Or how about the habit of choosing 3 to 4 kids, or even, a kids a week, or even for a month, and bringing them back to you and eating lunch with them. Maybe it's an academic habit. You don't know how you're going to do, maybe you don't know how you're going to do running records on all of your kids. So maybe you start making a small habit of doing 1 running record a day, just 1. Maybe at the start of your small group time period, or right at the end, just change this one thing, like make it one small habit. And then next thing you know, 5 days have gone by and you've done 5 running records. 10 days have gone by, you've done 10 running records. So one little small habit, and maybe you're thinking that's not enough time. It'll take me 20 days to get through my class. But how many are you getting to now? So think about those kind of things. It doesn't have to always be a giant start at something. And I also attribute this to running. I know I keep going back to running, but I think about I recently, I used to run for years and years ago, and then I stopped. I didn't love it and I stopped. And then I started doing it again, and I got this Nike app to help me, and it was teaching me how to run. And one of the things that the coach says is that he wants you to start off slowly. You're not just running right out of the gate, trying to run at a normal speed right from the beginning, or even fast right from the beginning. You're running slower than you even feel comfortable running. You actually want to run faster. So he talks about running slowly like that. And you do that for a while, a good maybe 5 minutes or longer. And it's training you, you only start to bump it up maybe even just a little bit so that you can finish the first run feeling accomplished, so that your body starts to want to run, and it trains you. And I'm that one little small thing made such a huge difference in running for me. And so that's in the end, I've been running rather than not running, and that's a huge result. So I think that one small thing can really make a difference. Okay, so I know what you're thinking, that maybe that one small thing won't matter. But that's the thing that James Clear says. He's really talking about this in his book, Atomic Habits. It's that 1% change that we make that actually makes a difference. So he talks about habits are the compound interest of self-improvement. I love that sentence. That's what he says. Those are his words. Habits are the compound interest of self-improvement. The same way that money multiplies with interest, this is what happens when you start making habits occur. When you're eating better. If you decide I'm going to eat really healthy every single day, that's overwhelming. That's an overwhelming task. But what if you said, I'm going to substitute my sugary cereal for breakfast and I'm going to eat eggs instead? I'm going to have eggs, and you might even still put some cheese in it because that's still some protein, and sometimes you do need some healthy fat. So maybe I'm going to have eggs instead of my sugary cereal. That's one small thing. Weeks and weeks of reducing that sugar, of not eating that sugary cereal and adding eggs makes a difference weeks later. So it can be really incredible. So like I was saying, one running record a day, and then next thing you know, yes, it's a couple weeks later, but you have all running, every child you've done a running record on. And then maybe you go, well, you know what? This habit was worth it. Maybe I want to increase it to 2. Maybe I do 2, and then I can get my whole class done in 10 days, which really isn't that bad. So I think that those little small adjustments can make such a difference. And honestly, this might just be the only way that we see real change. Because when we get overwhelmed with a task and we don't do it at all, then we're not getting the results that we want at all. There's no hope of us getting it. But if we change a habit by one small thing, then next thing we know, we are getting the results that we want. So when we see real change with our students, it isn't because of the one thing that we did on one day. It's not like we taught them everything that, they know in one day. It is an accumulation of so many things. It was targeted lessons. It was peer coaching, maybe. It was allowing kids to have independent reading. It was time to practice what we have taught them. We were doing guided reading. The list can go on and on. And then we start to see real improvements. Kids start to, grow and learn and change. And we can't just say, oh, we did that all on Wednesday. That was an accumulation of things. It was habits that we've done every single day. And they might have been small habits, but they make a difference. Habits offer the best chance of getting these changes, because if we build just that 1% better, those habits 1% better, it really compounds for us day in and day out. And good habits make time our ally. They make it our friend. It's like we get some time. It's the time that we need so desperately. We get to use it to our advantage. And bad habits make time our enemy. And that's the problem. Like, that's what I was saying about having that chaotic time at the end of the day. Like, my kids had bad habits of like, getting their backpacks all crowded together and making a bunch of noise and up and around out of their seats and like talking really loudly. And they, it's school's over. It's time for me to play around. And I really wanted to, when that first bell rang, I really wanted to like get to work so that I could get home, like I could actually leave, and I had things I needed to do, but the kids were still in the room being dismissed. Well, I had to change that habit because it was a chaotic mess, and it took time. It took a little bit of time. It took patience. It took practicing. And then it was exactly what I wanted. Okay, so here's an analogy that James uses for this 1%, because I really want you to see the benefit of that 1%, because I know what you're thinking. Well, I think I know what you're thinking. You might be thinking that's just not enough. Like, it's not going to change with just one small little tweak. But he says, imagine going into a room that is very cold and you can see your breath and it's like 26 degrees and you see an ice cube on the table. So you start to heat up the room very slowly. You increase it to 27 degrees, 28, 29, 30, 31. And then all of a sudden you get to 32 degrees. And all of a sudden that 1 degree warmer starts to have an effect. This is what changing your habits look like. You won't notice right away. For any habit you are trying to change, the greatest compound or the greatest return are delayed. Usually it's a delayed response. It takes a while. It takes a while for you to actually see the change, but we just keep knocking up the degrees one at a time. The habit is repeated over and over again. And the next thing we know, we have a small puddle. And we can't just say, I just bumped it up 1 degree. It took one little bit at a time. It started at 26 degrees. So it took one little bit at a time before that ice cube could melt. And that's how it is sometimes even with like a reader in our classroom, or a behavior issue who is, functioning in the classroom. Complaining about something not occurring yet is kind of like complaining you haven't melted the ice cube. It just takes some time sometimes. You just have to you haven't hit your potential yet. It kind of goes back to the whole growth mindset thing. You haven't hit it yet. The child hasn't had enough instruction yet. The child hasn't understood what it feels like to be successful. The behavior child, or it just takes time. Little things take time. And I know that's hard for me. Like, I am super impatient. I get really impatient. I want instant gratification. I want instant results. I feel like if I've worked really, really hard, why isn't it working right now? But I have to learn to be patient too. And your work is not wasted. That's the other thing you need to remember. It really is like a latent potential being stored that eventually makes the change. I think that's really amazing. It's such a good book. And I'm going to link to it in the show notes because I think that you might really enjoy it. And he does talk a lot about personal things and how it affects you personally, and even sometimes in business. But I really think that there's so much that we can read between the lines, so much inferring that we can do as teachers, and thinking about small changes we can make in our classroom that would have like these big results. So I think it's relevant to teachers as well. And I just think it's like, if we think of it like more in that global view. Another thing that he says is that every action you take is a vote for the type of person, the type of teacher that you want to become. We all have an identity. We aren't just a teacher. We also have beliefs about this. And like, am I the kind of teacher, or I'm the type of teacher who makes learning fun? Or I'm the type of teacher who believes that all kids can achieve success? Or can we have beliefs that hold us back? Like, I'm bad at spelling. I'm not a good math teacher. I don't often think about those inner narratives as part of my identity, but the more that we repeat things like that in our head, the more we start to take hold of that, and that becomes who we are, because what we believe or what we think about is how we act. So the way we believe impacts how we act, and the way we act impacts the way that we believe. And this can even be true for kids. So helping them to understand, to make small habits of even telling themselves, like not telling themselves, dropping the habit of saying, I can't, and believing I can, or I will, or I can't yet. Like even small habits like that can make such a huge difference. Like, I haven't figured it out yet, but that's okay. I'm going to figure it out. That means I'm going to figure it out. It doesn't mean I'm going to be stuck on this math problem forever. Like I'm going to figure it out. So true behavior change is identity. Like it changes your identity. And because once you start to see yourself as a new type of person, you don't even have to work that hard at the habit. Like, for example, a writer, like if you write every single day, you make it a practice to write every single day, it becomes a habit for you. And before you know it, you're a writer. And that's true for kids. Like we we do reading or writing workshop in our classrooms, and we have kids writing, and we have kids writing daily. And then the next thing they know, they are like, I'm a writer. They believe they're a writer. They've taken on that identity because of that small habit that they've practiced over and over again. But we do have to follow through. And if you are a writer, you need to do the habit of writing. And we need to assign like some of these deeper identities to ourselves that help us do the habit. And that's what I love about it. So my challenge to you is to think about the habits you have in place that give you back time. Maybe it's the relationships that you have taken time to build that prevents your class from going into chaos. You've created relationships with your kids. Like maybe that's what's preventing the chaos, which is excellent. Or maybe it is a habit of turning in work that makes it easier so to see who is done. Like I used to have a turn-in system where they had like mailboxes, and I would ask them to turn them into those mailboxes in their number order, so I could just easily, grab them out and it basically in ABC order. And I could quickly see like number 13, Timmy did not do this assignment. So it made it so much easier. So it was a habit that made things more efficient. And, habits and routines are very similar. So it all goes back to that, which we talk about at the beginning of our school year about, making sure that we're instituting these procedures and routines so that we can have an efficient running classroom. And sometimes we don't take the time to teach them, but we have to teach them, and teach them by like modeling them and giving them an example and a non-example, and then allowing them to practice it. Those are important parts of teaching this. So I want you to write down at least 3 good habits you have, and I want you to really celebrate them. Like really pat yourself on the back, because these habits have led to some really successful moments in your classroom or even in your life. And now I want you to think about how you got there. Was it easy? Probably not when you think of all the work. Maybe it really was when you think of the little steps you had to take to get there, but break it down for yourself, just like you do for your kids. See, it's not so bad. Now think about some habits that cause you stress, anxiety, loss of time. Maybe it's what you are doing at the end of the day, like I told you in my story, or maybe it's something that you need to change. So I want you to think of at least 2 small things that you can do to begin changing it. 2 small things. Remember, it only has to be 1%. So it doesn't have to be massive things. Changing your habit. Change that habit. Like if for me, like I need to let go, like another book I've been reading is The Judgment Detox. Another excellent book. And it's like you do these small little practices. And one of the things is this thing called tapping. And I won't go into that, but like I've been doing it every single morning because I'm like, I really want to not judge myself. I don't want to judge others. And I think it's like something that's holding me back sometimes. And so I've been doing these small little habits. It only takes about 5 minutes every single morning. And I'm trying to make it a habit so that I continue to do it. It's made a huge difference. I like really love this. Is another book that I really love. All right. So I want you to think of something that you could do, and it doesn't have to be a big thing. It's just that 1% change that matters. So here's another thing that James says. Time will pass anyway. So it doesn't really take as long as you think. So it does take some practice and some focus and some patience. Patience is key. And if you're like me and you don't have a lot of patience, this is where you can start to practice the habit of patience, which maybe you're just patient when you're in the car. Maybe you decide, I'm just going to take this 1% of my life and I'm going to practice patience in the car. And that might be a really big challenge. So maybe you say, just on my way to work. So pick something small and try that for a little while, and you'll gain some momentum and it will make a huge impact. All right, state your intention of implementing your habit. Just stating this out loud, I want you to write it down, and that just saying it out loud or writing it down, that increases your likelihood by like 74%. Isn't that insane? So here's mine. I'm going to go into the cafeteria 3 times a week and say good morning and hug kids 3 times a week. I'm going to make that that's like a really small part of my day. It's only like, maybe 15, 20 minutes of the day, but I'm going to go in there at least 3 times a week and I'm going to hug kids and I'm going to say good morning. And I think that that I'm a student support specialist, so I deal with behavior all day long. So I think just making contact with kids, those little 3 times, I think it's going to have a compound effect. So now I may not see the change at first, but I believe that 1% change is going to make a difference. What will you do? So as you're thinking about new goals for the year, maybe you think about changing your habits instead, just 1%, to make that huge difference in your classroom. Okay, so one more thing that James says, because I think this is really important. It's the best way to change a habit is to have these 4 components in place. So, and you don't have to have all 4, but these 4 laws of behavior change, like they affect your behavior change. So number 1, when you're making when you're thinking of your habits, number 1, make it obvious. Something that stands out right away, like small group time is starting. Like right when it's starting, that's going to send a trigger to your brain that right away you're going to do that running record. Or it's the time of the day that starts. Like it's it's morning time, so I'm going to immediately go out into the hall and say hello to my kids. So make it an obvious thing, or set a reminder, set an alarm, because you want it to be obvious so that you don't forget to do the habit. Like in the morning when I wake up, I have my journal right by my bed so that I remember that I'm going to do this little writing activity every single day, or I'm going to do the tapping activity because it's the morning and I'm having my tea. I'm trying to make it obvious. Number 2, make it attractive. So make the habit appealing. What do you want to get out of it? Better readers, happier children, more physically fit. If you're talking personally, less judgment in your life, like what is it? And this is usually a prediction of what you think the habit will eventually result in. So make it attractive. Number 3, make it easier. This is the key. This is really key. The easier the habit is to do, the more likely you will do it. So that's where you might set the self reminders, but the easier it is, like greeting kids at the door, that's not hard. Doing 1 running record, not hard. Writing for 5 minutes, not hard. So doing that one small thing, make it easier. And number 4, make it satisfying. The payoff of your prediction from that step 2, which was making it attractive, is the reward. You want to be healthier, or you want your kids to have a better relationship with you so that their behavior improves. So like the reward can be happy kids, better readers, less work coming home from with you. Like that might be another small habit that you make. Instead of going and talking to your colleagues during your planning time, you decide that you're going to take at least 3 of those planning periods a week, and you're going to stay in your classroom and do your work, and you're going to get that work done so you have less work that you're bringing home. That's a hard one, but maybe you start with 1 day. Maybe you like to talk like every day. Maybe you start with 1 day. You don't linger while you're dropping the kids off and then start talking to other people that are lingering, dropping their kids off. You go right back to your classroom and you get to work. Maybe you just do that 1 time a day. Because think about how much like work will accumulate that you get done that you don't have to take home. So if you want to break a habit, because that can happen too, and especially for the new year, like these are the 4 things you do to break a habit. Number 1, make it invisible. The less visible it is, the better chance you're not going to do it. Like for me, if I don't want to eat gluten, then I need to put the bread away. I need to make it invisible. So that's what step number 1. Number 2, make it unattractive. So you want it to be like something that it's it's horrible. Like you keep reminding yourself of how bad that this habit of doing this is. Like it's really unattractive when my kids are off the chain at the end of the day every single day, and it makes me exhausted. So make it unattractive, and then make it harder. You also want to make the thing even harder, because then you will less likely do it. And then number 4, make it unsatisfying. Add a cost or a consequence, like a downside to the habit. Sometimes it's just a natural consequence, but sometimes you need to like make it a consequence for yourself. Like I'm going to have to put, $1 in a jar every single time I eat a piece of bread or whatever. Something like that. Okay. So hopefully you've got some really helpful tips on habits for the new year, because that 1% can really change lots of things. And you're ready to do just a little small thing in your classroom this year, and you're not making giant resolutions that you know will break by February. So that's just something to think about and keep going. I'd love to hear what yours is. I'd love to know like what small habit you decided to make and how it's going for you, and like, how you're feeling about it. You can tell me in the new Facebook group, One Tired Teacher. So I hope that you join it and you share what your one habit is. I'm going to post that as a post. Like the first post that's on there when you join the group is like welcoming you and asking you to introduce yourself. And if that is like terrifying to you and you have like some social anxiety, even virtually, then you don't have to do that part. You don't have to say that. You might just want to say hi, and that would be good enough. And I'm going to also post this second post, and I'm going to ask you what your habit is and like how you feel about like, changing your habits, and what do you think 1% will do? And so let's have a conversation about it. We can continue this in the Facebook group. I hope you'll join me. If you missed One Tired Teacher and you're liking what you hear, I would love for you to leave a review. Give me a rating. Tell me how it's going. Tell me what you think of the show. And if you hit subscribe, you won't miss an episode. So when I was off for 2 weeks and now we're back on, then if that ever happens again, you won't miss an episode. If I end up taking a break and you're like, where is she? You'll be notified of every time the show is back on. So I hope that you will do that. Until next time, sweet dreams and sleep tight.